So it looks like we're starting to see some members to join, which is awesome. So for those of you that are here, we're up to 8. Welcome. And just a heads up, we're recording the session. So welcome to our June 13th session, and not June 14th, like Michael Knudsen and myself tried to mess things up with yesterday. So I apologize for that again. So hopefully everybody can join, and as mentioned, we'll record the session and share the link afterwards. I think we will slowly start to kick things in gear. Let me just see. Start by just asking a quick question here in the chat to see if there's some from everybody. Then we'll slowly start to take it from here. Let me do this. We've got Robin from Copenhagen. That's awesome. Jonas from Karlskrona. Mia from Landskrona. Espo Finland from Nick. We knew that one. Alex in Stockholm. Good to meet everybody. We've got Frank from the Lowlands. It's somewhere in the Dutch region of the Netherlands. Yeah. Cyprus, awesome. And Zurich, very cool. So first time using Adobe Connect. We wanted to see how the thing flies. So hopefully nobody had too much problems getting in. We experienced a few technical issues ourselves, I have to say. Nick had to disable his firewall to the extent that it would be possible to log in. So hopefully everybody got in fine. But yeah, we'll take it as it comes. We've got a few slides to show here up first. So let me just go ahead and share my screen. And then Nick will take over, and Daniel will also do some sharing. So as mentioned, welcome everybody. While I'm sharing, I'm not able to see the chat. So if you guys run into some issues, let me know. And hopefully Nick and Daniel can kind of shout out my name, and I'll be take a break if nothing else. So just a few housekeeping rules to begin with here. And as normal, a quick introduction to our wonderful MUG team. Veronica is not here today, but still here in spirit, of course. Michael, myself, and Nick, who's going to be presenting today, mainly from Trimble. As mentioned, we also have a guest speaker, Daniel Drzymalski, who is a product marketing manager from Knak. And I misspelled Knak. I apologize for that, Daniel. So please, I'm not shooting as well as I should right now, it feels like. Agenda for the day, as mentioned, we'll just go through the housekeeping. We'll turn into the subject of the day, which is translation of emails in Marketo, where Nick is going to show us 8 or is it 7 methods. We'll see. And then we'll end it off with some Q&A at the end, maybe a few aspects around what topic could be relevant. But we'll take that as it comes. Just to remember rules of user groups at the Adobe user groups. It's a non-self-promoting place, so no pitching of any kind is permitted. Please don't contact anybody outside the user group unless you have their consent before, which of course can be hard to do without contacting them. But then go through us, and we'll try to mitigate if that's necessary. We will, as mentioned, record the session. So if you have a specific scenario where you don't want to be part of this recording, feel free to leave now. As mentioned, it is recorded, so you'll be able to access the recording afterwards. It'll be available on the MUG site along with the presentation slides. So yeah, just a heads up. If for those of you that haven't done so already, which I hope everybody has, we request and hopefully you have already joined our chapter on the mugs.marketo.com website. Our little chapter is called Nordics MUG, which is mainly a virtual mug, but we might be able to do some in-person events hopefully in the future. We'll come back to that. But please go here and join if you haven't already. Some upcoming events that's worth bringing up to your guys' attention. The Adobe Champions program is currently running. The Marketo one is still open. They've extended the deadline until June 21st. So if this is of interest to you and you would like to become a champion, this is the link to go to. We'll, as mentioned, share the slides on the MUG's website when we're done. So you can go there and find these links. A very cool thing to have in mind, a neat little program, and they do get a lot of special attention. So either use the QR code or, as mentioned, go find the link after the session. Upcoming QA, what is called a coffee break, about the subject of general Gen AI and the dynamic chat capability within Marketo. There's a few caveats around this one. It's not a live video type webinar. It's actually just more or less discussions happening on chat. But again, it's an event happening on June 12th, so feel free to join this. Again, you can RSVP by clicking the QR code at the end, or just do it later when looking the slides over. We have another event, Marketo Engage Skill Exchange, which is August 8th. It's 9 a.m. Pacific time, so US based. It should still, I think, be okay for our time zone. It's a little late in the afternoon, evening, but I think it should be okay. So registrations are open now, and this is for just exchange of learnings and peer-to-peer learning, basically. You can see all of the different Adobe solutions over the 5 days, but the Marketo one is on the 8th. New instance best practice checklist has been published. You can find the slides by checking, again, the QR code or clicking the link. Again, we'll try to share this on the site when we're done with the presentation. A few upcoming events. First, North America, where you can see some different events. Some have already happened, some are happening in the coming days. We've got, three? Oh, that's not true. Yeah, 3 virtual events. Champion Office Hours, Adobe Deep Dive MUG, and Denver MUG, which are opportunities to join in the coming weeks. And then there's globally some other ones where we can see 2 or just 1, which is our own here. So the date hasn't been updated, and that's on me. So now I think we will slowly turn it over to Nick, who's going to both take the slides and then take us through the aspects of working with translation in emails with Marketo. So Nick, take it away.
All right, thanks, Michael. Yeah, for me, it's the first time I'm presenting in the Nordics MUG. I've been a member for, I don't know, probably already 8 years of the Nordics MUG, or was it even called the Finnish MUG? I don't remember what it was called in the beginning. I remember attending it even in person then. Really nice. Since 2 years, I'm kind of helping Veronica and Michael with leading the Nordics MUG. And now it's the first time where I'm actually presenting. So I want to share some of the knowledge that I have had in the past 10 years working with Marketo, and in the past 2-3 years working with Knak as well. And I think it's a great topic. See how we can do translations, localizations in Marketo. In Marketo, there are usually a lot of different ways to do certain things, to accomplish certain things. It's the same thing with translation of emails. It can be done in so many different ways. Is there like the ultimate way? it's a difficult answer, I would say, because it really depends on your setup, on your usage of Marketo, of your company setup. Do you use workspaces and partitions? Do you just have one workspace? Do you have a centralized mobs team? Do you have a decentralized mobs team? Or maybe you have a hybrid mobs team. So really, depending on your organization and setup, you might see better ways of translating emails than the other ways. But I'm going to explain quite a few. So maybe a bit about myself. So I live in Finland. I live in Espoo in Finland, like you saw. I've been working with Trimble from now on I say 50 plus years. So yeah, 10 years in Marketo. And yeah, we have been dealing with a lot of localization of content, so also emails in Marketo. Yeah, let's just dig in. I'm gonna do a combination of slides, but then also a demo. You'll see why I cannot always demo certain stuff. The 8 or maybe 7 different methods to translate emails in Marketo. Depends how you look at it. Is it 7? Is it 8? Doesn't really matter too much to me. There are probably even more ways to translate emails, but at least the 4 first ones that I will explain are very commonly used ways of translating. And then from Knak will present how it is done in Knak, and maybe present a bit of what Knak is at first. I'm very happy to have you here as well. All right, the first way is probably what every first Marketo user would think of, and that's just a manual translation by copying, and I will show you, just by copying an email, cloning an email, and just translating it. So here, and I just took one of our emails as an example. It was an email that was actually not localized at first. So if you see some mistakes in the local or in the French language, that's on me, because I kind of translated this. My French isn't as good as it used to be after living in Finland for 18 years now. So I used to grow up I was born in Belgium, grew up in Belgium, knew a bit of French, but my French skills have gone quite backwards. So if you ever see something wrong in French, my apologies. So you start with an English email, very simple. This was an email about one of Trimble's biggest events, the Trimble Dimensions. So very simple. There's a subject, there's an image, there's text, there's a button, footer, etc., etc. So really basic. One thing I will tell you about this email as well is that there is text in the image. I did not do any translations in the text now. Usually we would do that. But for this purpose, I would need to go into Photoshop, do the translations there. Usually I try to avoid text and images, especially if we go to localization. It's always a bit tricky. But of course, can be done. I didn't touch the image, just something to tell at first. So an English email, very simple. You can clone an email quite easily. So I'm just gonna write that title. And I'm just gonna call it Dutch. So I have a French version already pre-created as well. So you go in here, and then you can just translate. So my mother tongue is Dutch as well, and I'm just state home. So very easy. You just clone it, you translate it. It's a manual work. It's probably the kind of technically the most easy way of translating, although is it really the best way? No, definitely not, because it's very time consuming, and also a MOPS person, a Marketo user, needs to do the translation or give the translation in here. So sometimes there is no other option. If you have a lot of workspaces and you work with a decentralized MOPS team, where certain MOPS teams have only access to certain workspaces, then you will have different programs if you cannot access the other workspaces. So then naturally, you will just have different emails and different content. So, but if you have then an entire email translated, just want to quickly show you a preview of the French version, then you just have it in French, like very easy, but very time consuming, and it needs to be done by a MOBS person. All right, second way, dynamic content. Dynamic content is a quite common way, I would say, to translate. The good thing with dynamic content is that you only have one email. If you have an email program, a newsletter as an example, in the dashboard you can only select one email. So then if you want to have a translated version, you only have the option to either clone the program and then have different emails in each program, or then use dynamic content. So then dynamic content is usually preferred, I would say. Let's see. So dynamic content, I'm gonna go into the email. What you need before you actually can use dynamic content is a Marketo segment. So if you deal with languages, it would be a good idea to create a Marketo segment where you define or where you basically group your database in different segmentation values according to the language they would prefer to get communication in. That's not always that easy. It really depends on the data you have in your database. If you have a language field and that language field is very accurate, you could use that. But usually you don't really have that. It really depends. More common would be a country field, which can also be used in your segment, but then you will stumble upon problems with countries like Belgium, where they speak officially 3 languages, or Canada. So it's not always that easy and straightforward. What I would always recommend is, if you use both, so you have a language field and potentially you could use a language field and then fall back on the country where they are located. So for let's say for Sweden, I'm going to take Sweden as the example. So if your database has a language field and you see in there people that speak Swedish, then they would fall into the Swedish language value of your language Marketo segment. But the ones that are empty, you could then make an OR statement, or if it's empty, take people from the country Sweden in that segment value as well. and that's what I would recommend. So then practically how you can do the segmentation in an email is here on the right. You see there's all the content. You also have the dynamic content. At first, this will be empty. It will be empty if you did not make any content dynamic. So also good to understand is that uh, you don't necessarily need to make your entire email dynamic. It could just be a few parts as well. Of course, if you deal with translations, I would assume that like the majority of your email will be translated. So practically how you can do that, I'm just going to click on the subject. And then on the right, you see here a button. Currently it says make static because it's already dynamic. If I did not make a dynamic, it would just say make dynamic. And then from the moment you make one content piece dynamic, then you will see the languages here on the right. So if I click here and I click on French, because I translated this already in French, you can see different parts that are already translated into French. So that's how it works. There are a lot of other languages, as you see here, but just because this email has not been translated in Trimble, this is purely for demo purposes. I just stick with French. All right. Not sure. I don't see any questions so far. If you have questions, please fire them in the chat. I keep track on it. All right, but that's dynamic. That's dynamic content. I know that this is a method that is used quite a lot. A couple of the good things: you just have one email, so you can use that easily in email programs like newsletters. If you want to use that in a flow step of your smart campaign, that's also quite easy. You can just say send email, and there's only one email you kind of need to put in your flow step. Compared to if you manually translate and you clone emails, then you need a lot of if choices and use a field or a segment value in your if choices, which sometimes you need to do, but I would say try to avoid too many choice steps because it will just slow down your smart campaign. The query in the backend will just get more complex, and Marketo will go slower. There's a question: can we do the CTA in the email dynamic to lead to different landing pages? I'm not covering landing pages in this session. With CTAs, yes, you can, but it also really depends how you set it up. Feel free to like get back to me like separate. I'm happy to show some of that, but at the moment I don't have anything prepared to show that. All right, we covered manual translation, dynamic content. The next one I will cover is velocity scripting. Velocity scripting is extremely powerful. I'm not a coder. I'm not the developer in that sense. But what I will show you is something that inspired me from a post I had seen on the Marketo Nation, and some of you might guess who wrote the post. Indeed, Sanford wrote a post or wrote an answer on a post, and it inspired me. I was looking for a better way to do translations in Marketo because when I was investigating how we could improve our workflow was because I was involved in a campaign where I spent way too much time on translations. And then I developed a method to generate a velocity script. And we saved probably over 100 hours by using the velocity script. Isabel, you're asking if I can share that link to the Marketo Nation post. For sure, I'll do that. Always happy to share some of the great stuff there on the Nation. A velocity script, it's very technical. At Trimble, it's still used, but not that much anymore. I say that we are going more towards the translations in Knack, so you will see that quite soon. But still, I'll show you that it's pretty neat. So a velocity script, what you need to do the method that I will show you is first your emails need to be completely tokenized. So you don't have just normal plain language text in your email, you just have tokens. So your tokens will be defined on a program level, because then if you have several programs, several emails, then you need to have them. I recommend to have them on program level. And then there is one token that is not in your email, but that will be required, and that's a translation script. And you'll see a translation script basically has all the translations of your content, and the individual tokens that are in your email refer to the translation script, or basically to the correct place in the translation script. I'll show you that soon. All right, maybe I just quickly demo that. I'll clean up some of my tabs. So first, I'll show you the tokens. So for just this demo purpose, I did not tokenize the entire email, but I have a couple of text, kind of text content places in the email, and I also used the velocity script in the subject. So these, I will show you first the translated text script. It's very small. It's only 20 lines big, because I have only 2 languages now in this demo, and only 4 content pieces. When I used this for some of the campaigns earlier, this could get close to 1,000 lines. So it can get really big. Now, something to note here is actually the token of the content piece. As you can see here, subject, text 1, text 2. You will have CTA texts, CTA links, etc., etc. So really, it can get very, very long. So notice the content piece, and then also the language. Then the tokens that are in the email, for example, subject. I don't know if it's big enough, but I have it in the slide a bit bigger. What you can see here is subject, which is again the content piece, and then I have, it's based on a field here. This is a lead token, so a field that will then check what language a person has, and it's gonna pick the right translation from the translated script. So from the other token. So it's a bit complex, but once you get it working, it's not too hard anymore. I'm also going to show you the email. You can do a quick preview. I don't think I need to go into the edit mode. So you can see here, I have the tokens. So your email is completely in code. Then when you generate it, and I will need to take one of my test records. Let me see. I'll use, so there's no standard first version. Everything is kind of generated in the script. So if I put here French, this this test record has French as a language, so you can see that this is translated then. Now, that's the technical setup. The biggest challenge here is to generate the script. Because like I said, this was only 20 lines big. Manually, you can probably easily do that. But if you get to a script of 1,000 records or 1,000 lines, it gets very complicated. So that was our second challenge. We finally could technically do it, but then our challenge was how are we going to generate a script with 18 different languages and 25 different tokens. Manually, it's impossible to do that. So we figured out a way to get a Google Sheet, or we find out a way with Google Sheets to generate the velocity script. Probably there are other ways, even better ways to do it. But like I said, in mobs, we just look for a solution and we get it done. And the good thing with a Google Sheet is that we could easily import our translations from SmartLink, which we are using as a translation service. So we could save a lot of time here. I will just quickly show that. I don't want to get too detailed into this, but we have a template. So for each email, we just clone this. We had different pieces of text, so different tokens. Like you could see here, we had also a CTA text and a CTA URL, different languages, and then we got all the translations into these fields. And then Google Sheet in the backend here did some coding and stuff, and then at the end, it generated this script. I don't think this was too long yet. 235 lines, which was okay. But we have run into problems where the script got so big that Marketo didn't even allow it anymore. There is a limit of 100 kilobytes for a velocity token. So a few times we have run into it. But yeah, that's how we used velocity scripts. A technically brilliant method, but a very technical one. We have also seen that for some of the mobs people, this was quite a challenge to get this working. We are not using it anymore because actually, technically, we still use it, but for new translations, we are not using it anymore. Our preferred way is the Knak way now. Let me see. I'm just gonna have a quick look through the questions. All right, don't see anything to answer right now, so I'll just continue. So yeah, some information about the script generator. All right, the last part, an external translation service. Or I'm saying the last part, like directly in Marketo. So then we'll see some options in Knak. An external translation service is something which Trimble does not have integrated anymore with Marketo. We have used it at some point. We tested it. And it's a great way, especially if you have your translation processes very well set up, then it could be something to look into. Because we don't have the integration anymore, I will just show you some slides, some screenshots I took from a demo. It's actually quite straightforward how this works. So I'm not going to spend too much time into it. Feel free to go to SmartLink and check a demo there. So 4 different steps. You have an email in Marketo. Like you saw the English version there earlier. You go into SmartLink, you go to that email, you will see your emails there if you have the integration done. You click on an email, you request a translation job, and then you select the languages you want to translate it in. then your translation processes will kick in, either with internal translators, external translators, or even a translation bot, whatever the process is. After it's completed, SmartLink will generate the emails in Marketo, and that's how it is. Then it's done. You will have the amount of emails as you requested a translation in. So it's not using dynamic content, unfortunately. So that's a downside of it, that you cannot really choose how if it's one or multiple emails. So a couple of screenshots. You have an email. Again, this is taken from SmartLink. You request a translation. You can see a couple of languages here. You just click them. You create a translation job. You continue. Your translation processes kick in, and then at the end you have multiple versions of, or multiple language versions of that original email. So simple as that. Up to the Knak way of translating emails.
Beautiful. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Okay, let me get set up here. Let's do this. All right, just to verify, Michael or Nick, can you just let me know what screen you're seeing?
No code email and landing page creation.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So thank you, Nick, for having me. Thank you, Michael, for having me here. So my name is Daniel Drzymalski. Michael, well done on the last name. I know it's difficult, but well done. I am a product marketing manager here at Knak. In a previous role, I was a senior CSM for our enterprise clients. So I was able to assist companies like Meta, LG, AstraZeneca, GE, Yahoo, to kind of achieve better translations and reduce building bottlenecks. So at Knak, we do this with a no-code solution, as you can see, for both email and landing pages. And we try and take that creation process to the next level to make things easier on you, and make things a little more streamlined for your entire organization, at least anybody that is in MOPS or creating emails. So today I'll go through, what is Knak a little bit, and then I'll dive into a few translation methods and dynamic content kind of being built out in Knak. So in Knak, so what is Knak? So essentially, we're kind of like a drag and drop editor. We try and make things super easy, super simple. You'll see in the builder how easy it is. We specify that we are no code, and we try and make that easy on you. We built in everything on the velocity script side into Knak, so that you don't have to essentially play around with it on the Marketo side. We have a few easy ways to create from the Inspiration Center, and we have some safeguards in place for optimization. And we definitely love to collaborate. We want everyone to work within Knak, so you can have set up multiple teams on Knak in order to, when you're translating multiple languages, you might have several different teams that this goes to. So we do have collaboration functionality within Knak just to make those translations a little bit easier. And then safeguarding those emails, we want to make sure that you're testing the emails for different clients, you're previewing them for desktop and mobile, and just making sure that everybody has the correct brand control even when translating over. So some of the functionality that you kind of already saw from Nick, and Nick, it was a great presentation on the Marketo side, and we definitely flow into that, into what you were presenting. So we do have dynamic content for Marketo, essentially what Nick did, but in a Knak way. And you can kind of get the power of that velocity scripting with more of a simpler interface, so that you can get a hold of that powerful velocity script, but essentially in an easier format. So instead of creating multiple email assets, essentially you're creating all of your dynamic content pieces in one email. You can create as many segments as you like in Knack, and essentially have it all in one email. So management of those emails becomes much easier. And then scaling the personalization. So like I said before, giving those MOPS generalists the power to kind of enable all emails for dynamic content. I'll also chat about translations. So we have multiple ways of doing translations. There's our Knack way, which we utilize AI and manual translations within Knack. So management of those translations becomes much easier. I'll show this. I think it's simply a wonderful process. The customers that deploy this see the accuracy of the AI anywhere between 80 to 100%, depending on the complexity of the syntax. So they're seeing huge amounts of benefits just by deploying the simple translations option. And lastly, I'll also show you any external. So if you've got, currently support natively a transperfect path, and soon we'll be launching. And I say soon, I want to say in a month or so, maybe less, maybe more. But we'll be launching a smart link addition as well to that. And then you also have an XLIF option as well. So if you wanted to download the XLIF from that and then send it off to something that is not natively supported, you can do that and then re-import it back in for after it's been translated. Okay. So let's dive in to the Knack builder. And please, Nick or Michael, if there's any questions, let me know. Stop me in my tracks here. So right now I'm in the Knack builder. Okay. I've got an email asset here. Our company, our demo company is called Pied Piper. We're a data infrastructure company. And essentially what we do really doesn't matter, but I need to do a few things with this. I need to first change a couple of things for, let's say, dynamic content first. So I've gone ahead. I've actually already done a little bit of dynamic content within here. So if I took the Marketo user group and I want to create an email, let's say a newsletter like this is, I've already attached a few dynamic pieces. So this is an image, and typically our dynamic content applies to images, text, buttons, and appear subject and preview text. Okay, and I'll show you that in 1 second. So when you're looking at the email, if I click on this, it turns purple and I get to see dynamic content variants. I've already assigned a few of them. So I've assigned MUGs Germany and MUG North America and a default. So if I wanted to, let's say, quickly preview this, I could say that what content will Germany see when I click on this? They will see, okay, specifically for Munich. And if I click on North America will pop up. And then anything on default will be a global newsletter. And I can do the same thing to the text. I can add those same dynamic pieces. Right now, the default is, let's say, power of dashboards, just so we can see the difference. Okay. And then I will add in some of my segments. And these segments, so there's a few ways. So when we grab segments from Marketo, they're your predetermined lists in Marketo already. If you have them, great. If you don't, we can also take the fields that are available to you, and I'll show you that in a second here. So for this one, I'm going to have globally, but I'm also going to add in Germany because I want it to correspond with my image and with North America. Okay. So now I just need to make sure that everything makes sense for this. Let's just, for simplicity's sake, call it what it is. And for North America, we'll change this just so we can see how. Okay. So now if I go back into here, I can see that the image changes and it corresponds with the text, with your title text. Same with North America. And if nothing is selected, everything will be global. I did see a question come through about is this available in Marketo Engage? This does all sync over to Marketo flawlessly, just like Nick was showing earlier. When you select your different test cases, your different users, if those users have the country engaged in that field, that would correspond with that. And the segments are, I'll show you in here. If I wanted to add a content, and I'll go a little bit deeper now. Now we want to take a look at this part. So if I dive into that segment, I'm able to set conditions. And and that kind of corresponds with the Marketo flows. And so you can set to match all or match any. These are some of the variants that I've already pulled in from Marketo. So I did in the integration setup of it. There's a section where you can then sync either your segments or open fields that they can choose from, and then you can start personalizing. So for this one, I chose city. The string that I chose is. You have multiple sets of different things that you want to avoid people in Munich, or avoiding the city Munich in your German newsletter, and maybe there's something more specific. You can do that as well, and then in here you'll just have anything that matches this syntax in Marketo. That audience will then get that image. Okay. Now, if I go a little bit further, I'll go back into this, and if I wanted to check, I think it was North America. Yes, correct. So in here, this is a little different. So these are the variables and the fields that are available. And these are the segments that you've already created in Marketo. Those are the ones that we want to pull in. And so essentially, I've chosen here country. Okay. And you can see if I hover over it, it says, is billing city. So the lead and then dot billing city is selected. And then all of your users that have all in that, also all of your audience that is inside that segment will then be selected. And then your segment actually shows up in here. So you can see from your list is already created with these countries in it. I didn't have to add anything in. So now that text field pulls into a drop down. So I've selected North America, and I want to make sure that, yes, it's Canada, USA, Mexico, and then I'm good to go, and I hit save. And that's now available for me to then add in a little more detail on the dynamic content piece. Okay. Now, for time's sake, I can also do this on buttons. So if you have, I saw a question earlier about landing pages. You can do the same thing with landing pages. Each one, you can set up a separate link to then say, I can have one for Germany, I can have one for North America, and so forth. So for when you're creating webinars and you want to route people to the right landing page, this would be a great way to do that with only one email. So now moving on from dynamic content to let's go with translations. So we've got this beautiful translation button, and please follow along as best as you can in this sense, because I'm going to merge two things at once. So in here, I will actually configure the translation. So here I'm met with two options. At the bottom here, it says use Knak translations. So this is with AI, or we have our TransPerfect external translator connected as well. So if we wanted to, and this could also work with SmartLink soon, you'll have that option as well. So all you have to do is select which one you'd like to translate with, and then move forward down the path. So I'm going to use Knak AI for this one specifically, but the path is exactly the same. My source language is English. That is my base. I will translate to French as Nick did, but you can select from up to 150 different languages. For right now, for this demo, we only have these loaded in, but if you don't see anything, we can definitely load them in for you. But in this case, we're going to select French just as one, but let's just say German as well, because I have German in there, maybe some Italian, and maybe something with characters, just to make things more fun. Okay. So in here, I'm also met with manual translations or AI translation. And so the path here is AI translation will complete the translation for you. A manual translation is for you then to manage internally. And this is great for when you have teams internally that you're actually going to have review for you, but you don't really have a way to manage all of the different assets. So this will actually create the asset in Chinese. Let's say if you're manually translating it, it would create the asset in Chinese for you, and then you can then send that off to your MOPS person or to your translation person that will translate that email into Chinese, and they can do it manually. But for this presentation, I'm just going to do this all in AI just because it's more fun. Yes, everything is selected here that I want. I'm going to submit the request. I'm going to get some beautiful confetti. Let's have a party. I'm going to hit done. And before I even hit done, I already have Chinese translated. And as the other ones kick in, you can see how quickly they're being translated. So what happens here? Here is the English one stays as your base. This is going to be your parent. And these are all going to be your children assets. Okay. And then what we have is, let's check out the Chinese version first. So everything's already created. Text over top of images are also translated in that sense. I've got my tokens already in there that will merge into Marketo seamlessly. Everything's translated, even buttons and images and everything else that's assigned with this is good to go. Okay. And you can cycle through that from French and so forth. And from here, so things I would probably clean up is maybe this got a little too long, and I would probably have to clean up the sizing a little bit, play with the sizing a little bit so it makes more sense. But at this point, this speeds up the entire process so much faster. Okay. And then lastly, let's go back to my base asset here. Let's return to base. And if you ever did need to change out something, if you want to change out an image, you could also do that. So you can click on an image, change it out, and then sync that same image across your translated assets. So as you can see, the style and layout changes are not in sync. So all you would have to do is update this, click on this one, update all, and it would actually migrate that different image across to the Chinese, French, German, and Italian versions. And in this case, what I'd like to do now is show you one last thing. You could kind of also translate and translate, but also use localization and personalization within Knak, would be our AI assistant. So with the AI assistant, you can make things, what it does is it parses the email. So it looks through the content of the email, understands the email a little bit better, and tries to provide you with some suggestions for subject and for preview. Now, as you can see, you can also make that dynamic. Okay. So let's say if you did choose, let's say unlocking data potential, your monthly dose for insights. Perfect. Okay. You know what? I'm going to personalize this a little bit better. Make this for Canada. Oh, now I'm personalizing this a little bit for, oh, that's my fault. I didn't tell exactly what I'm trying to make it for. Personalize. Subject and preview for Canadian audience. Perfect. So I can actually have multiple pieces of content here for that can be dynamic. Perfect. Maple Leaf, that sounds right. Added some emojis. That's Canadian. Perfect. So I can actually select, if I like only just a preview, I can select that. If I like just a subject, I can select that. If I like both, I will use both. And then in here, I can add on another layer. I can make those dynamic for Germany. Oops. I can make that dynamic for Germany by adding that in, and by North America as well. And then in here, back to what I was doing before with dynamic content, I can change this out, go back to the assistant, personalize for Germany, and it should make slight alterations to make this a little bit more for a German audience, and even translate the exact same information over. I don't read German, so I'm going to assume that that looks good. But let's just, for example, take that, and that is basically how to localize on a very high level. I translate through moving through several different avenues using dynamic content. using external translation services like SmartLink, TransPerfect. You got manual translations and AI translations, and then a little bit of bonus content, subject line and preview text AI. Any questions I can answer?
There's a question: are links CTAs in the AI translations?
Are the links?
So probably
when you say links,
if you have a button, is the text and the link also translated? So probably if you have a French, like you translate it into French, what do you do if a link goes to an English page?
Yeah, no, you have to set up your links. Links you would have to. They're not translated. So links you would have to direct. Yeah.
I just have one question.
Yes.
The subject and the preview AI functionality is insane. When will this happen for an entire email? I would love to generate an entire email based on input, based on a document, based on text, a web page. Let's say I have a web page about it, or even better, I have a campaign brief of a webinar. Here's the brief. This is what the webinar is about. Can you generate me an email? That would be insane.
Yeah, and that's, you know what, that is sooner than later, because that is something that everyone is asking for, and that's something that is our it's part of our vision as well for it, and for the long term scale of it. That's how we're taking these steps in order to get to there. And these steps are showing us, what's good, what's bad, showing us the great side of things, and how to implement it perfectly, because at that scale there's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of fields that need to be updated, and there's a lot of information that needs to come in correctly in order to then be associated. Yeah. So text to, or a request, let's say, from, if you're working inside like a work front, how do I take my workfront tasks and turn them into emails with like one click?
Yeah.
That's one of our visions, and it's definitely it's something that we're working towards. And I think something like this AI assistant that's in alt text and that's in the subject line and the preview is definitely going to be our catalyst in order to get that across the line.
Yep. I see. It's quite straightforward, the subject and the preview text, but there's a lot of details that probably need to be worked out if you want to do it for an entire email. There's another question from Aryan. Thanks for demo. Could you elaborate on Knak's additional functionality compared to the new Marketo email designer that is being introduced in H2 or in the second half?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I haven't played around with it yet. When we have a little bit of access, there are going to be some functionalities that will most likely be similar, just like any other kind of players within the market. I'd love to answer that in depth, but it's just not something that we have enough context around. Yeah.
All right. Looks like we are just on time, Michael.
Yeah. I have a last poll I just want to share to see if we can get some feedback. If we were to do a session in real life, where would it make sense to do so? So I just want to share that possibility while that's running. So thank you, Daniel, so much for the presentation. Really awesome. As an old Marketo dude, what an awesome approach to building emails. It looks like literally a joy. So yeah, really impressive, I must say.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you guys for the engagement. Thank you, both of you guys, of course, for presenting. Really awesome, really insightful, and really interesting. We had some good people joining. As mentioned, it is recorded, so we'll share the recording afterwards. So yeah, I think we'll call it a day. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. And Nick and Dan, if you want to stay behind, we can just have a quick talk. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.